From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. James, how are you today? I'm glad we're back and we have another special episode.
Oh, it's great to be back. I'm doing good, Steve, and yourself?
I'm doing well. We're on a bit of a roll. We just recently passed 10,000 downloads, so that was pretty cool. And we also have had consistent flow of guests, so this is great. And we have another returning guest today. He's none other than Dan Ferrisi, the group editor, commercial and security with Emerald. Welcome back, Dan.
You so much, Steve. Thank you so much, James, for having me back. Congratulations to you both on hitting that 10K milestone for downloads. It's a really remarkable achievement. I think it's a testament to both of you really and the value you bring, the value that us the programmer brings. So kudos and well done.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that. And Dan's one of he's it's his third time returning guest. I think you're leading the league here. So Dan was last with us in episodes 173 and 174, and we're doing a follow-up to that now. But his first episodes, if you want to listen to them, they were 124 and 125. And Dan is really great about bringing us some insight from his audience, from Commercial Integrator, and he likes to come here with some questions so that we could have some deep thought and conversations about programming. So, Dan, I'll let you take it away and what you got for us today.
Yeah, thank you once again for having me and for letting me be a conduit really for our audience. That's really what I want to be in this context. I want to take the kind of groundswell of questions or concerns or wonders that our audience might have and just be able to direct them straight to you. That's what I'm here today to do. So this is a question we got from a commercial integrator reader, and I just want to put it to you, James, and to you, Steve, and see what you have to say about it. So here's the question. It goes like this. What are some straightforward ways manufacturers can make programming easier? And what effect will those steps have not only on programmers, but also on integrators who are looking to impress their clients, really kind of other clients? Where would you start with that, Steve or James, or however you'd like to do it?
I could jump in. I also want to hear James' perspective because he's going to come at it a little bit of a different angle, but I think we'll probably hit this from a couple of ways of looking at it. To start off, everybody's looking to make programming easier. That's just been what AV's been about for so many years, and we tend to tell people that the easier you try to make programming, somebody's got to do the heavy lifting and somebody's got to do the hard work. And manufacturers do play a part in that, and part of what they can do and what they have been doing and what my company has been helping with, and this is a great question for me to answer in that regard, is that they've been taking their products, their API that they put a lot of time and effort into and can be quite robust, and not only offering that up to programmers because in years past, in the early days of programming, we used to have to fight to get what we would call the protocol. And now it's an API and it's something that's publicly available for the most part. And it's something that they boast about. But having an API is only the starting point. And many of the manufacturers now realize that although programmers can work with an API, let's give them even more of an advantage to work with our products by giving them something that we call an API integration, which is termed differently for different control platforms. Some call it a module, a driver, a plugin, and give them something that's a proven solution that says we work with this control platform, and here as the programmer can just put this into their project and know that this product is going to be compatible. And that's a really, really big advantage and something that manufacturers can do to make programming easier. And by doing that, they allow programmers to really focus on the task at hand. And the task at hand is satisfying their client, their user, and customizing the system to the needs of a particular application or a particular challenge that they're trying to address by putting in the integrated system that they are programming.
It's really about that certitude, that confidence where compatibility isn't even a factor. You can rest assured. You don't have it's a factor you don't even have to think about. You can focus on the other things and not worry, is this going to work? Is it going to be compatible? Is it going to be okay?
That's correct. And the worst thing in the world is being out in the field and struggling to work with a particular device, because programmers have enough challenges on their plate and they usually are pressed for time, and they're usually the one that everybody's breathing down their neck to get the programming done and tested so that they can get a sign off. And the last thing you want is to struggle with a piece of equipment.
The,
I
m-
agree completely.
my take on this might be a little different than Steve, as he mentioned. I come at it a different angle, and I am first going to say make a statement of we need to define what they mean by make it easier. I had a supervisor once who we got a conversation, we were talking, and I made the comment saying, nothing I do is hard. And his response has stuck with me since then. And it's something I use a lot is what is easy for you might be hard for somebody else. Like, I don't know rocket science, but rocket science to them, rocket science is like, oh, this is stuff is easy. So if a programmer is saying, hey, what do we need to manufacture to make my job easier? What do you mean by that? Are you saying writing the code, like, is that too difficult for you? And you just need to up your skills? Or is it like Steve's talking about, is it so hard to find that information to talk to the devices that the manufacturers put it behind paywalls or, hide it, that you don't have those APIs? So really, I think what kind of look at is what do they mean by make it easier? We all have to focus on the hand, but like I like programming. So when I'm sitting there programming, I'm going to do my line code. That's easy to me. I know that stuff. Um, but if I had to go and I'll admit one thing that's difficult for me, it was never a forte for me because I never learned it, was mounting equipment to like walls and stuff. Like I never had to do that. I had a coworker who was an expert in that. I could rely on him to handle that aspect. So I had never pick up that skill set. So I couldn't tell you like an easy way to find studs and all that stuff. So I would be difficult on that. I would struggle for that, just like he was struggling on the programming side. So I think that's really what we need to clarify is what do they mean? Because if we are just trying to make it easy for anybody to do it, then anybody would be a programmer. We are programmers because we make programming easy.
Yeah. No, I think that that's a very good point. I mean, you think about it not just in the context of work, but even in the context of relationships and stuff like that. Some people, accounting comes easy to them and they can handle the household bills. Other people are more, Mr. or Mrs. Fix It, and they can handle that kind of handy person stuff around the house. And it's much the same, like you said, James. I mean, programming might come intuitively and naturally to some. It might be easy and natural to you. Then when it comes to mounting or, pulling wire, rack dressing or whatever like that, it could be much more challenging or easy depending on where you come from, what your skills are, what your competencies are. So I think you're right. I wish we could go back to that questioner and say exactly what do you mean by easy, to your point. What does that mean? But I think your point is very well taken.
The other thing that I can think of too, just to add to that, if we want to look at this from different angles, is the just be making products that have consistent functionality, that have some manufacturers are very good at making their models backward compatible and making products that all work from the same set of codes rather than making everything a one-off and everything unique, so that in James' situation and in a lot of technology managers, they just want to be able to swap out a model for the newest one and not have to change programming. So that's another thing that I could point out to say, manufacturer could really benefit from sticking with a standard of their product in their product line, so that they all perform in a similar manner and that they work with the same commands, because that's a big advantage.
I,
Yeah.
I I couldn't agree more on that one, Steve. That is definitely a good step that manufacturer could take. As a programmer, it always drove me mad where I would have brand X display, for example, I'll pick on a display, and I'm using my Model 1, and that model discontinue, end of life, and the manufacturer did what they do best and come out with new models with new features. And like the simple turning the display on or setting it to the input is different. It's like, why? I always came. I always loved the manufacturer who made, like, their power command was always the same command, no matter what the model was. It was always the same command. You might have other bells and whistles that the API gave you. You might have more inputs. You might have more other features that you can adapt your code to. But I didn't have to change my power commands.
Yeah, keep simple. The simple stuff should remain simple.
Yeah. I want to go back to the last part of that question. And I'm not sure, quite honestly, if it was an integrator who passed this along. It was an anonymous submission, but they asked about integrators who are looking to impress their clients and the role programming plays, whether programming is easy or intuitive. Do either of you want to speak about, from the integrator perspective? Because of course that's commercial integrators focused, those channel partners. How central is programming and programming's efficacy and natural compatibility with integrators being able to wow and impress their clients, for their clients not to be stressed out and worried and breathing down the integrator's neck? Is programming really essential to being able for integrators to be able to deliver that wow worthy experience that they want to hang their hat on?
Uh, I could jump in. I think it's essential. I mean, the programming is what the user interacts with for the most part in terms of operating system. Yes, the system does perform, and they say that if the system is performing at its best, the technology should be invisible, but it's the programming in the background that's making that happen, in my opinion. And also there's an importance to be able to have reliability, and also giving the client the tools that they need to be able to maintain their system. So it's not only about the user, but it's also about the person who's responsible for managing the systems to be able to have the tools that they need, and all that comes from programming.
Yeah. I think because what I'm thinking about a little bit is kind of the gap between what is satisfactory or adequate and what is wow. What is this does the job, and what is I'm so impressed. I want to write a Google review. I want to tell my friends. If I'm a church or a synagogue, I want to tell my colleagues. I want to tell everyone about this company. Is programming the gap between adequate and outstanding?
I would say, in a way, yes. But really, to get to that wow factor, for any integrator who says, "Hey, I want to wow my end users, my clients," you need to solve a problem they don't even know they have. If I'm a end user coming to an integrator and saying, "Hey, like, I work in higher ed, I need you to design me a classroom." I know my problems with classrooms. And we have our standards. That's what we do. But if an integrator came to me and be like, "Hey, look at this program feature we threw in," or, "Hey, look at this new feature that solves this issue that I don't even realize I have," making management of it remotely easier, easy the deployment, things like that, like, yeah, I can sit there and hit buttons and get things going, but if I can save time, that's really what programming is, saving time for the user. Like, we can all throw 20 remotes down on an lectern and call it a day. Turn on all your devices, use the remotes, call it a day. That doesn't save time because, you got to find which remote for which device. Programming makes it easy. It makes it one simple solution. So you can wow me by solving a problem I don't even realize I have.
Yeah.
The other thing I would add to from an insight perspective is that I think integrators would do themselves a service if they would be more engaging with the client,
Yep.
and allow them to be part of the process of defining the functionality. And although they're not going to write the code is essentially written by coming up with a description of what needs to happen, and playing that out as much as possible, modeling it even in some regard. And then the programming is just something that somebody sits in front of a keyboard and types. but it's getting it down as to what we're going to do that I think really creates the bonds between the integrator and the client. I
And
don't,
I agree. And also given the user kind of walking them through it in one way or another. Because I mean, I just had this happen to me recently. I have a demo of a product. I saw an Infocom. I saw it was a really cool product. I was like, hey, it's a unique product for a unique area. I'm like, I think members of my users might find this cool, beneficial. So I got a demo of the product. I set it up and I emailed a couple of my stakeholders. I'm like, look, I got a demo of this product. Here's the specs. This is what it can do. I even talked to them a couple of times. And I got a couple of this is like, oh, how would we use it? I'm like, look, you can use it this way and all that stuff. I really went into it. I was like, but you know what? Stop by. Come play with it. Their tune changed the second they walked in the room and started playing with it. They're like, okay, this solves something. This solves a need I didn't even realize I had. Even though I was explaining everything that they were playing with, I explained it to them. They understood it. It was actually seeing it in person and actually touching it and saying, yes, it can solve something I didn't even realize I had.
It's really cool that that tactile experiential angle, all of a sudden it goes from theoretical to actual. It goes from, oh, I wonder to, wow, this really could be transformational for me.
Yeah.
excellent. I think hopefully, Dan, we've been able to satisfactorily answer those questions and provide some good insight for you and for the readers.
Absolutely. As always, Steve and James, I think you've answered the question very, very thoroughly. And I'm sure that our reader, whoever it was who submitted that anonymously to me, I very much appreciate them doing that. And I think they got a lot to think about and chew on when it comes to ways manufacturers can make programming easier and what exactly easier might mean in that context as well.
I'm glad to hear that. So thanks again for being with us, and we're going to have you on again in next week's episode. But until then, how can people get in touch with you, learn more about your publications, and also and continue the conversation?
I certainly encourage people to reach out to me. You can find me at commercialintegrator.com and securitysales.com for the two respective brands I oversee. On LinkedIn, just search for my name at Dan Ferrisi Edit on X. And I certainly encourage everyone to reach out to me at dan.ferrisi at emeraldx.com with any either questions for you all that I might be able to pass along or any other ideas for how we collectively as an industry community can do better. I want to be able to amplify your voice as well as my own.
Thanks, Dan. And I didn't say that Dan's episodes do get some of the most downloads that we get amongst our episodes. So thanks for being with us, and thanks for also enriching our listeners and our community as well.
You'll have to thank my mom, my dad, all my relatives as well for tuning in every time I'm on.
Perfect. You keep it coming. James, how can people get in touch with you, continue this conversation, and keep up with what you're doing?
Uh, you can find me on X at AB_James King. You can anything higher ed and HEPMA, I'm there. You Google me, you'll find me.
Excellent. And for me, you can reach me at Steve Greenblatt on social media. My company, Control Concepts, is a supporter of this podcast, and we can be found at controlconcepts.net. And one of the things that we do is we help programmers by developing API integrations and also some of the utilities and building blocks that are needed to enhance the functionality of programs and systems as we discussed today and make programming easier. So for this podcast, which we'd love for you to continue to follow and share your latest, share your favorite episode. We can be found on YouTube as well as your favorite podcast player, and we also have a LinkedIn group. Please join us there, and you can keep up with these conversations and or some polls and questions that we pose. And if you'd like to be a part of this show or submit your favorite topic or question, please do so. And we'd love to hear from you. And we want to make sure that we are serving our audience properly and effectively. And until next time, this has been Ask the Programmer.